He owns $240 million in Bitcoin, but he can't touch a cent. Why? Because he forgot the password. He has 2 guesses left before the entire fortune deletes itself forever. This isn't fiction. This is a real man, with a real vault, and one of the most expensive mistakes in history. Alright, so before we dive into this absolutely wild story, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Because what you're about to hear will make you question everything about digital money and, honestly, your own memory. This is the story of Stefan Thomas. And trust me, you've never heard anything quite like this. The beginning, so here's how it all started. Back in 2011, Bitcoin was basically worthless. I mean, we're talking about when people were buying pizzas with thousands of coins. Most people thought it was just some weird internet experiment that would probably disappear in a few months. But Stefan Thomas, he was different. This guy was a programmer, and he saw something that most people missed. He actually created this animated video explaining how Bitcoin worked. And it went pretty viral in the crypto community. Yeah, viral for 2011 standards, which probably meant like 50,000 views. But still, now, here's where it gets interesting. A Bitcoin enthusiast was so impressed with Stefan's work that he decided to pay him for it. Not in dollars, not in euros, but in Bitcoin. 7,000 to Bitcoin to be exact. At the time, that was worth maybe a few $1,000s. Nice little payday for a side project, right? But Stefan, being the careful programmer he was, didn't just leave this Bitcoin sitting on some random exchange. Oh no, he transferred it to what he thought was the most secure place possible. An IronKey USB drive. The IronKey. Now, let me tell you about IronKey drives, because this detail is absolutely crucial to understanding just how insane this situation is. These things were designed for people who needed military-grade security. We're talking CIA and NSA level stuff here. The IronKey has this feature that, honestly, sounds like something out of a spy movie. You get exactly 10 attempts to enter the correct password. That's it. After 10 wrong guesses, the device permanently encrypts itself and everything on it becomes completely inaccessible. Forever no recovery possible, no backdoor, no forgot my password option. It's gone. Stefan knew this when he set it up. He wrote down the password on a piece of paper and, you know what he did with that paper? He put it somewhere safe. Somewhere so safe that, well, let's just say even he couldn't find it later. The forgotten fortune. So years go by, and Stefan basically forgets about his Bitcoin. I mean, why wouldn't he? Back then, 7,000 to Bitcoin was worth maybe $6,000 total. It was cool, but it wasn't life-changing money. You know, he's working as a programmer, building other projects, living his life. The IronKey is sitting in a drawer somewhere, just collecting dust like any other old USB drive. But while Stefan was living his normal life, something incredible was happening to Bitcoin. 2013 hits, and Bitcoin starts climbing. Then, 2017 happens, and it absolutely explodes. Suddenly, Stefan's forgotten investment isn't worth thousands, it's worth millions. Then tens of millions. Then hundreds of millions. Can you imagine that moment? That exact second when Steph Corder realized what he had, and more importantly, what he couldn't access. The first attempts. Alright. So Stefan finds the IronKey and plugs it in. He tries the passwords he thinks he might have used. You know how this goes, right? We all have those go-to passwords. The ones we use for everything. First attempt. Wrong. Okay, no big deal. Maybe it was a variation. Second attempt. Wrong. Third. Fourth. Fifth. Sixth. Seventh. Eighth. All wrong. Now, here's where it gets absolutely terrifying. The screen shows 2 attempts remaining. Two more wrong guesses and $240 million disappears forever. Most people would probably just start randomly guessing at that point, right? But Stefan, he stopped. He actually had the discipline to step away from the keyboard. Because once those attempts are gone, they're gone forever. Living with the weight. So imagine this for a second. You wake up every morning knowing you're technically worth $240 million, but you can't spend a single dollar of it. It's right there, on your desk, in a little USB drive. But it might as well be on Mars. Stefan has talked about this in interviews, and honestly, the psychological toll is something I can't even comprehend. He's described it as both the best and worst thing that ever happened to him. The best because, technically, he's incredibly wealthy. The worst because he can't access any of it. He's tried everything you can imagine. Hypnotherapy to recover suppressed memories. He's hired experts to help him remember. He's meditated, trying to put himself back in that 2011 mindset. Nothing worked. And here's the really wild part. This story became international news. Stefan became the poster child for Bitcoin security gone wrong. Everyone knows his name now. Everyone knows he has this fortune he can't touch. The crypto detectives. When this story went public, something amazing happened. People started reaching out to Stefan from all over the world. Cryptographers, hackers, security experts, all claiming they could help him crack the IronKey. Now, here's the thing about IronKey security. It's not just some simple password protection. The entire drive is hardware encrypted. Even if you took it apart with a microscope and mapped every single circuit, you still couldn't extract the data without the password. The encryption is built into the physical hardware itself. But that didn't stop people from trying. Stefan received thousands of emails. Some people offered to split the fortune with him 50-50 if they could crack it. Others wanted 90% for themselves. A few claimed they could do it for free, just for the challenge. One hacker even claimed he had successfully cracked IronKey drives before. He wanted to meet Stefan in person, with the drive, to attempt the hack. But here's the catch. If he was wrong, if his technique didn't work, those 2 remaining attempts would be gone forever. The decision. So Stefan had to make an impossible choice. Trust a stranger with his $240 million fortune, or keep it locked away forever. The risk was absolute. Either he gets his money back, or he loses everything. Most of these offers, Stefan turned down. The risk was just too high. But there was one proposal that actually made him consider it. A team of security researchers claimed they had found a way to extract data from IronKey drives without triggering the password counter. They wanted to physically take apart the drive, map the circuits, and try to read the encrypted data directly from the memory chips. It sounded like science fiction, but these were legitimate researchers with published papers on hardware security. The problem? The process would physically destroy the drive. If they were wrong, if their technique didn't work, the Bitcoin wouldn't just be locked away, it would be literally destroyed, turned into electronic garbage. Electronic garbage. The psychological experiment. Here's something that really gets to me about this story. Stefan has essentially become the subject of the world's most expensive psychological experiment. How does a person cope with knowing they're worth $240 million but can't access it? He's described having dreams about the password, waking up in the middle of the night thinking he remembered it, rushing to the computer, only to realize it was just his brain playing tricks on him. Can you imagine that? Having your subconscious tease you with false hope. And it's not just the money, it's the what-ifs. What if he had written the password down somewhere safer? What if he had used a different storage method? What if he had made a backup? Every day is a reminder of one moment, one small decision that cost him everything. The funny thing is, Stefan says he's actually learned to live with it. He's made peace with the situation. He has a regular job. He pays his bills. He lives a normal life. But I wonder, can you ever really make peace with something like this? The ripple effect. This story didn't just affect Stefan. It changed how people think about Bitcoin security. Suddenly, everyone realized that being your own bank comes with terrifying responsibility. You can't just call customer service if you forget your password. Hardware wallet companies started adding recovery features. Crypto exchanges began offering vault services. The entire industry shifted because of stories like in a weird way, his mistake helped make Bitcoin safer for millions of other people. But here's the really crazy part. Stefan isn't alone. There are estimates that about 20% of all Bitcoin that exists is permanently lost. Forgotten passwords, corrupted hard drives, people who died without sharing their private keys. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars, just gone forever. Stefan's case is just the most famous, because he went public with it. Imagine how many other people are out there, sitting on fortunes they can't access, too embarrassed to admit it. The current situation, so where does this leave Stefan today? Well, he still has the IronKey. It's still sitting there with 2 attempts remaining. Bitcoin has gone up, gone down, gone up again. That 7,000 to Bitcoin has been worth as much as $400 million and as little as $140 million, depending on the market. But here's what's really interesting. Stefan has basically stopped thinking about it as his money. He's moved on. He's working on other projects, living his life, making actual money he can actually spend. In interviews, he comes across as surprisingly calm about the whole thing, almost philosophical. He talks about it like it's a lesson the universe taught him about attachment and letting go. But I have to wonder if that's just a coping mechanism. You know, the what-if game. Let's play the what-if game for a second. What if Stefan remembers the password tomorrow? What if one of those 2 remaining guesses is correct? What if he suddenly becomes one of the richest people in crypto? The thing is that Bitcoin has been sitting there for over a decade now. It's become part of Bitcoin's mythology. In a weird way, Stefan's locked fortune is almost more valuable as a story than it would be as actual money. It's a perfect example of everything that's both amazing and terrifying about crypto. But here's the twist. What if Stefan actually does remember the password, but he's keeping it secret? What if he's learned that the story is worth more than the money itself? I mean, he has probably made more money from interviews and speaking engagements about this story than most people make in a lifetime. Probably not. But it's fun to think about, right? The human element. You know what really gets to me about this story? It's not really about Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or technology. It's about being human, about making mistakes, about forgetting things, about living with regret. We've all forgotten passwords. We've all lost important things. But for most of us, the consequences are minor. Maybe we lose access to an old email account or have to reset our Netflix password. For Stefan, one forgotten password cost him $250 million. It makes you think about memory, doesn't it? About how fragile our minds really are. Stefan probably used that password dozens of times when he first created it. It was burned into his brain. And then, one day, it just wasn't there anymore. That's terrifying in a way that has nothing to do with money and everything to do with the human condition. The final attempts. So here's the question everyone wants to know. Will Stefan ever use those final 2 attempts? Will he ever take that ultimate gamble? He's said in interviews that he's made peace with never accessing the Bitcoin, that he considers it gone. But I wonder if that will change if Bitcoin hits $1 million per coin, or $2 million. At what point does the potential reward outweigh the risk of permanent loss? Some people think he should just try random passwords until the attempts are gone. At least then he'd have closure. Right. But Stefan seems to understand something that most people don't. Sometimes, hope is more valuable than certainty. As long as those 2 attempts remain, there's still a chance. The moment he uses them up, that chance is gone forever. Maybe living with the possibility is better than living with the finality. The bigger picture, Stefan's story has become a cautionary tale about the double-edged sword of financial sovereignty. With great power comes great responsibility, and the power to be your own bank comes with the responsibility of perfect security. But it's also a story about something deeper, about how one moment, one small decision, one forgotten piece of information can change everything. Stefan made a perfectly reasonable choice in 2011. He secured his Bitcoin in the most advanced way possible. He just forgot to secure the key to that security. In traditional banking, there would be customer service, recovery options, legal processes. In the world of cryptocurrency, there's just math. Cold, unforgiving, mathematical certainty. The blockchain doesn't care about your sob story. It doesn't care that you forgot. It just is. The eternal question. So what's the moral of Stefan Thomas's story? Is it about being more careful with passwords? About not putting all your eggs in one digital basket? About the risks of new technology? Maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe it's just about being human in a world that's becoming increasingly digital. About the fact that no matter how advanced our technology gets, we're still just people. Fallible, forgetful people. Stefan Thomas owns $240 million in Bitcoin that he can't access. But in a strange way, he might be one of the luckiest unlucky people in the world. His story has become legendary. He's become the face of both Bitcoin's promise and its peril. And somewhere, in a drawer or on a desk, sits a small USB drive. Inside it, 7,002 Bitcoin waits patiently for a password that may never come. 2 attempts remaining, 2 chances at $250 million. 2 opportunities to either unlock a fortune or lose it forever. The countdown continues. The question remains. And Stefan Thomas lives with the weight of the most expensive forgotten password in history. What would you do in Stefan's situation? Would you risk those final 2 attempts? Or would you let sleeping Bitcoin lie? Let me know in the comments below, because honestly, I can't decide. If this story blew your mind like it did mine, make sure to subscribe for more incredible, true stories about the wild world of cryptocurrency and the people who live in it. Because trust me, Stefan's story is just the beginning. Thanks for watching, and remember, back up your passwords. You never know when that random string of characters might be worth $240 million. Until next time, stay curious, and maybe, just maybe, write down your passwords.